Hey guys, and welcome back. So since the last time we had the Z4 up on the lift, we did an oil change, super easy, and we also found out that it's got a coolant leak, which we think was coming from the overfill or the expansion tank, right? So I was able to get the expansion tank removed, replaced, and actually get the car driving without overheating, and then I found another issue. Well, that has to do with the valve cover gasket, and it's leaking oil all over the manifold, which makes wonderful white smoke while you drive. So today, we tackle the valve cover gasket. Stay tuned. Before we get started on the valve cover gasket, I thought I would show you that I replaced the air filter, which as you can tell, looks like it probably has never been replaced. So this is all clean in the new one. And here is the expansion tank. I think you might be able to notice that right here, it is completely cracked. I'm gonna say that BMW did the worst job on the expansion tank, and all of the housing that holds all of the tubes together actually on it, plastic. Every piece of it plastic. When you have the heat cycles that this sees, I really think I would have went with something better than this, but it is what it is, and it's been replaced with the OEM one. So now we don't overheat. All right, let's take a look and see what we've got going on with this valve cover gasket, because that's our next project. Project after project after project. The fun thing about owning a car, especially a project car, is every time you fix one thing, something else goes. And right now we're at the valve cover gasket. All right guys, let's start off right here. So this is the valve cover and the gasket's right there. Now I will show you, and I'll do a quick just around here of the leakage and seepage that we've got going on. And basically the smoke is coming from right here. So it's a pretty typical thing to have the valve cover gasket go. So let's start replacing it. Look at the oil dripping down. And that is what is catching on, well, not catching on fire, but becoming smoke. All right, there's a few things that we're gonna need for this project. One is the valve cover gaskets, and these are the ones that go for the spark plugs. This is the actual seal for the valve cover, and then it comes with all of these, which are the seals for all of the bolts that will go in there. So now let's just start taking everything apart. Oh, I forgot. We will need some ultra black gasket maker. Now I've been told you do not absolutely need this, but we're gonna use it just to make sure, because I gotta tell you, I don't wanna do this again. First thing I'm gonna do is take off this strut bar. Not that you have to do this. It is a 16 millimeter, and there's 2 bolts. It's just gonna allow me to take the valve cover off straight instead of have to go down and over. I figured that it's an easy job to do to save me from messing anything up. Now that we have that done, we can remove the PCV valve, which is a press and hopefully I don't, oh, there we go. Okay, squeeze top and bottom, and then it's a pull. That's what it's supposed to be. Oh, there we go. That is off, and I didn't break it, though it looks like it's kind of cruddy. All right, and I can see that that is gonna be in the way the whole time. Nice. Now that we've got that hose off, we can reach in here and get all these caps out, because we're gonna need access. Shnikes. All right, so rule number 1, don't do what I just did there and drop it down in your engine bay. All right, next we can take these 4 bolts off, and they are 10 millimeter. I am gonna take the oil fill off because you're gonna have that off to get to it. We'll place that down here where I'll forget it. That comes straight off. I'm gonna set that aside. All right, let's take these off now. You definitely don't want the nuts to fall into the engine bay, and that's exactly what holds this on. The bolt actually sticks up, so these are just the nuts. And all this is just a plastic shroud. We can take that off. Beautimous. All right. This would have been an excellent time to go ahead and change the spark plugs. Now that I'm in here, I'm looking at this going, why did I not do that? Because, well, let me tell you why. I'm not the smartest person in the world. All right, guys, so in here, you can see that this is the wiring harness that's going to be taken care of for all of the spark plugs. We also have where they're grounded to the block, and those are 8mm bolts. All of the rest of them are 10mm bolts. I'm gonna go ahead and release these, which is just that easy. It's always that easy until you say it's that easy. Okay, all right. Okay, now we can pull off the connector for each of these. Except for the one that is hard, which is probably the one that really needs to be replaced. There we go. All right. Now that I've released each one from the wiring harness, you can actually just take these and twist and pull right now. There we go. And that's what you're looking for. We will keep these in the same firing order. So this is always going to be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. I don't know if that's the firing order, but what I'm saying is that each one of these needs to stay with its respective hole. So this one's going to be my number 1. Number 2, and so on. Now that all of the spark plugs have been removed, I'm going to put the oil fill cap back on just so nothing falls in there. I'm going to take off these 8mm nuts, and we have to be careful not to lose those as well. Okay. And that way our wiring harness will be somewhat free at that point. I am happy to see that there is no oil down in any of the spark plug holes. It's always a good sign that at least those gaskets didn't fail, right? All right, so originally I thought this was really being held on by the bolts, but it is absolutely not. When you remove it out of the way, you can see that there is a upper retainer on this side and then lower retainers on here, here, and then over here is one. What I will tell you is this: once you release this one and this one, the whole assembly will rotate a little bit and you can pull it straight up. Do not spend your time taking it off the bottom ones. It's really these top ones that are holding it in. Make sure you get those first, and that will then come out of the way and we can just set it to the side. We've got one more thing that we need to do here, this piece. That needs to come off. This is a metal retainer. I think you can just pull that up, and that comes out, that comes out, that comes out. These are all for the O2 sensors, I believe, but we just don't need them to be in the way. So we just do this, remove them from there, set them to the side. I just pushed them down. Good, that worked out very nice. Next, let's continue taking off all of the perimeter bolts, and then we'll take off the center one. This is where I wish I had millage to help me. All right, and this is what I want to show you as well. Each one of these has a little rubber gasket around it, and we're going to replace each one of these. So we'll keep those in the same spot as well. Alrighty guys, let's just take these off. I'm actually going to keep going in order. So I started here, 1, 2, 3. Take this one off. I don't know why I'm not using my impact wrench. That would have been the smart thing. Oh, that's why I'm not doing it. It would have been the smart thing. And I'm sweating. I hate sweating. Need air conditioning. All right, we've got all the perimeter bolts out. We can now take out the center ones. I really don't think that there's a big deal when you're taking it off as much as it is a big deal when you're putting it on to make sure that everything is sealed correctly. I'm just going to loosen all of these. And that is what the center ones look like. Obviously, they're the ones with the little stud on the end. All right, I believe I have all the bolts out now. I'm looking, just visually inspecting, make sure there's nothing else that I see, and I do not. We've removed the O2, we've removed the firing rail. Let's see now how hard this is to get off. I've been told that you might need a mallet, like a rubber mallet. But I was really hoping that mine would be so bad that it would just say, no, you know, oh, like that. That's the worst spot right there. And of course, the best spot is in the front here. There we go. It just comes off with a little bit of TLC. Make sure that the wires are out of the way. We got the wires out of the way. Look at this. Here we go. You can see where it's leaking right over there. Right there is where it's leaking on the bottom side. You can see all the oil. That's where I was getting my smoke from, and you can see that it's compressed there more than it's compressed to other places. I've been told that these little mounds are the ones that leak the most, but they actually look like they're in pretty good shape on this one. So now that we have it off, let's replace some stuff. All right, guys, I started taking out these. What I did is I used a pair of pliers just to grip the rubber part here. Do not touch the plastic. But you will see that the old seals are pretty much brittle at this point and no good. That's why they break apart. But they will come out. You just have to persuade them. What I like to suggest is slow and even pressure on them. They seem to work best that way. The other thing that we want to make sure of is that we don't get any of the old gasket rubber that flakes off inside of your valve cover. You definitely don't want that. And this just... All right, so the next thing that I will do is actually clean this off to make sure that all mating surfaces are nice and clean. And then I'll put the new seals in and we'll be able to go back to the engine, clean off all of the seals there, and then make sure that we can reapply this. All right, guys, here's our valve cover. We've got all the seals in. We just now need to make sure that we never have any issues with it again. I have read that this is what to do, is to use ultra black gasket maker. It's oil resistant on here so that it will create a good seal. If you look at the BMW manual, it says nothing about this. It's a controversy online whether you should or should not do this, but all I am going to do is just place a small amount of this sealant so that I never have to worry about if it's going to leak or not again. All right, guys, the sealant that we put onto the valve cover takes 24 hours to dry, and we want to make sure that we get this on there the right way the first time. So I'm going to line this up a little bit, put that down there. Look at that. Almost like I had done this before, right? Almost. Just looking to make sure all seals look like they're in there and they're good. And they do. That is actually pretty amazing work, I must say. All right, now that the valve cover's back on, we can do the reassembly, which is basically the same thing as the disassembly, except we'll start with the center ones and put those in, and then we will do a spiral around to make sure everything seats correctly. All right, so you can see that I've put these into the hole. They're not tight, but I will show you. Each one now has a new rubber gasket on it, so it's a little tedious, but it really is needed so that each one of these can seal up. Put that one back on there. You start with these center ones because the center ones are on their own gasket, so it's not as imperative to make sure that you get everything. But I will tell you, the first thing to do is just get them snug. So I'm going to start with these center ones and just... See, that's starting to get a little snug. Let's just go to the next one. I will tell you that on these valve cover gaskets, it's not about how hard they're in. It's only about 8 to 10 Newton meters of torque that we're going to put on these. So it really is just take your time, snug them up, and then go back and do them again. It's the way to make sure that everything seals to the best of its ability. All right, guys, so everything is torqued down now to spec. We can now do the reverse, which starts off with the O2s, and we need to get those put back into their valley. And you can just work on that. Everything just goes back into place, because it's such a nice little system. It really is such a nice little system. Everything just has a place. We'll clamp that back down a little bit so it holds them. That'll be good. Everything's good. Everything's in there. Made sure I kept them in order, just so we don't have any issues. Give those a good press in there. There we go. And you can feel when it's seated. It will make a nice click. There we go. And we can put the wiring harness back into place. Don't forget that we've got to put these back in the centerpiece, and we'll put those on. It will not work without that. And I don't want to have to go back in here to do it, so let's just get this little son of a gun back where she should be. And all right, to put the valve cover system back on, need to take this off. Everything else is in there, done, good. That looks beautiful. These things go on here. Well, I know this one goes this way. And it should line up pretty easily, because you got to have the hole for that. Which way did this go? I think it goes this way. Almost positive it does now. Maybe not. Let me just see if I've got it. All right, so that goes there. That goes like that. Well, to be 100% honest, this is one of the easiest jobs that I've done on this car so far. It is tedious and time consuming, but truly one of the easiest things that you can do. I did put back the little covers, and I put back the strut brace bar, so everything is ready to go. Now, the one thing that you do have to remember, that sealant that I used on this, it takes 24 hours to dry. If you don't use any sealant, obviously you're ready to go as soon as it's done. For me, tomorrow I'll be able to start her up. Okay guys, hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed. We'll catch you next time. I think she's ready to be driven.